was telling these guys, we've been internet friends for a couple years now.
We have.
Am I shorter, taller, about the height that you were expecting?
I didn't catch up. You know what? Honestly, I'm still shook that I met Andy from Apollo, and he's a giant. And then I met Pep, and he's pretty big. And then I met you, and on the bell curve, you're average.
Yes.
No, honestly, I assume, I'll tell you, 5'10"?
I try to say I'm 5'10", I'm 5'9.5".
Okay, so I was like thinking of you asking me this question, actually. And I was like, well, before I go meet him and hug him, what do I think? I was like 5'10", and then I realized that's just like the national average.
Yeah,
so
I'm average,
You nailed mediocrity as soon as we met in person.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well,
the hair is great, though. I want to give you credit.
Yeah, looking good, too.
Thanks, I got a haircut.
Yeah, you got in late last night or what?
I got in late last night.
Were we ready for this talk that we're giving?
Not 100%, honestly, but I was like, I met Pep and I was like, is he gonna hound me for like slides? And I was like, no, he didn't. So I think we just go into, we'll chat. I think we just we do a little quick sync, and I think we just go light slideware.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I've told you this, for anything you think I'm good at, my marketing kryptonite is making decks. They are dog shit. They are they're so bad. Like, I wrote out what I want to say, and then I was like, I don't know how to make this into a slide deck, so I'll show it to you, and you can go, let's just not show this to anyone that exists.
Oh, my God.
Or you can maybe help me fix it.
All right. Step one is awareness, so at least you're aware of it.
I've openly told, and Julian was supposed to do it with me, and he's the slide god.
Yeah.
So it's like, cool, his topic, he's going to make the slides, and he's like, actually, I'm not doing any of that shit. And I went, well, how about a fireside? Because that's easy. But it'll be fun. It'll be good.
Sweet. So you got a lot going on right now.
I do.
Killing it at Clari. You're doing a little show on the side.
Yeah.
Tell me something that you haven't shared about the show yet publicly that you've learned, either good, bad, fun, terrifying.
I would say, I mean, when you go into an interview style show, I'm always thinking of like the audience, right? So the whole premise is, you do a lot of prep and you want to deliver insights for the audience. And what I forget, or, because I've done a podcast in the past, is like how much I learned, but really how much I've been validated. So a lot of the stuff we talk about is creativity, marketing, and betting on yourself. So kind of like marketing and entrepreneurship.
Yep.
And what's interesting is hearing how people balance or struggle to balance life and career and ambition.
Yep.
And so that's something I struggle with a lot, is like, there's some days I wake up and I'm like, I'm the guy and I'm going to crush. And then there's days I wake up and I've got like self-doubt and I'm unsure. Yeah. And it's been really validating and interesting to hear from all these different creators, from sales, marketing, and just talking through, like, everyone's struggling and everyone's finding their path and everyone has something they're working through.
Yep.
So I've really enjoyed that. And then I've just learned a ton from people, like different frameworks and how people are approaching different things. Like, one of the things lately was Eddie Shleyner in Chicago. I'm like,
the best. I love him.
Dude, he's a god. He's literally a god.
I love him.
And I love over complimenting him because he just blushes and he hates lights, camera, action, and he hates compliments. So I just put him in a chair with like 3 cameras, all the brightest lights I've ever been a part of, and then just complimented him until he was uncomfortable. But I was asking him, like, how are you so prolific? You have a crazy popular newsletter. It's very, very good.
Yeah.
It's very good copy. He's got like 100,000 followers on LinkedIn, and he's doing, he's got his transformational landing pages course. And I'm like, how do you maintain such longevity? And he was just like, I go back and forth between growth and craft. So he's like, he takes 3 months off of LinkedIn unapologetically, doesn't worry about the algorithm.
That makes so much more sense now, because there have been times where I'm like, where is Eddie?
That's what I told him. I'm like, I feel like you don't post every day, but then I went on your feed and you do. And he's like, no, I take months off. And so what he does is he's okay saying goodbye to LinkedIn for a couple months, and then he goes and builds a course, or now he's writing a book. And so to me, that was just like enlightening, even though it's so simple, because to me, I'm like, if I commit to a channel, I'm on it all the time. And so that was just like one of the things I took away of like, cool, it's okay to pause growth and not grow as fast as possible and enjoy the craft.
Yeah, I love that. So one of the things that you mentioned was just about, imposter syndrome and whatnot. I think it was your newsletter last week.
Yeah.
How did that land? Because I loved reading that.
Dude, so fun story. I write those, they come out Saturday morning. On the good week, I write it on Thursday. On an okay week, I write it on Friday. And on that week, I wrote it on Saturday morning, which is like way behind deadline. And the reason why I was okay with that was because I was struggling a lot with like imposter syndrome that week. And I was like, despite having launched the show, despite like the success it had so far and having just shot this cool stuff in Chicago, I just was like, just kind of down on myself and I wasn't really feeling it. And so I had this choice to make. Do I like put on a good face and talk about like more growth stuff? Or do I kind of reveal the real me and just say, hey, like, if you've been following me and you rock with me, hopefully you like this, you know, or hopefully you accept this, really.
Yeah.
And so I was like, talk to my wife, and I'm like, here's what I'm thinking. Like, is this, like, I'm like uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'm like, is this too much sharing? And she's like, there's only one way to find out. And she's like, the people who really rock with you on this are going to love this.
I fucking loved it.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Seriously. That was the most like vulnerable I've been on the newsletter. And so, yeah, I just wrote on, you know, had a cup of coffee, wrote it all out, did a quick edit, and I didn't over polish it because I kind of wanted it to be a little more raw, maybe not like super smooth. And the feedback was really good. A lot of people replied and like kind of thanked me, which is kind of interesting if you think like, thank you not for the insight, but just for being vulnerable.
Yeah.
A lot of people were like, this is a side of you I haven't seen before. And so it kind of gave me some confidence to like, I don't always have to have it all put together. I can just come to you like, hey, if I'm feeling a certain way, if I'm a little doubtful, like talk about that experience and where I'm at instead of pushing that to the side and pretending like everything's good.
So it's funny that you said you made sure it wasn't, you know, super polished and you didn't really edit it a whole lot, because I thought that was clear to me by reading it, and I thought that was just so much more raw and authentic than just trying to perfect some, you know, vulnerable post for the sake of trying to look vulnerable instead of just being vulnerable.
Yeah, I think, isn't that kind of like, you can feel that disconnect where it's almost like someone's trying too hard to be vulnerable, like, oh, look at me, I'm so sad. But it's like, it's so polished that it almost doesn't land. And so I was like, look, if I'm going to commit, which I do, I'm all in or all out. So I'm like, if I'm going to commit to this, I'm going to write a full post. I'm going to do one for just grammar so I don't look like an idiot, like, you know, with typos. And then I'm like, I'm just going to ship. I literally sent it and like shut the laptop and didn't even look. Hung out with the kids, came back and like looked at my phone and was like, oh, cool, people like it.
That's awesome.
So, thanks, man. I appreciate that a lot.
I was curious how it was going to land. I'm glad it landed well. So we're at Spryng. What are you looking forward to at Spryng?
I'll be honest, this is the first event I decided to go to. Like, I am speaking, but I would have came either way because people like you and multiple marketers like, this is actually a dope event. You should come to it. So that was like, okay, people, word of mouth, people actually like it. And then two was like, I've been in like, because of the pandemic, I've been in like the Zoom box world other than recording for the show, the Zoom box. So I'm like, let me get out and like actually meet the people that I've been internet friends with. So I was like, I want to do that. And then I feel like, and it's kind of cheesy, but like this is kind of potentially the new age of marketing events or industry events. Which I love everything that Pep did in terms of like, we're not trying to get 10,000 people, we're trying to get 200 people and that's it. There's some content, but it's really light. There's like 20 minutes, I think is like the session length. And the other thing is like, it's all about group discussion. And I love that the ticket comes with all you can eat food, all you can drink, and the event starts at 10 a.m. Like, you understand people are a little sluggish in the morning. So I'm like, that's my vibe. Like, I hate the 8 a.m. session. I got to get up, put on like my nice dark jeans to fit in. I'm like, no, I'm wearing my favorite kicks, wearing my favorite t-shirt, and I'm just going to come hang out.
I love it. The first thing I noticed when you walked up was the shoes. I was a little nervous about the weather and how muddy it was going to be back here, so I left my good ones at home, but
I didn't even think about mud. I don't know, dude. I'm from California. It's already summer, so I'm like, I have all white sneakers. So I was like, glad I wore these. It's okay, you know. You clean them, you buy a new pair. It's all good.
All right, so let's talk about Clari a little bit. What is, I guess, maybe a recent tool that you bought at Clari? I'd love to learn more a little bit around what that evaluation process looked like.
Yeah, let me think for a sec. I don't buy a lot of tech. I'd like we run like when I do interviews, like, what's your team's tech stack?
I hate people that ask that question because it's not like, oh, here's a recipe for 5 tools and it's all going to work.
There's not, and I've noticed there's not, as far as I know, there isn't like a Salesforce for content marketing. There's not like one system that like everyone uses that I know. It's Google Docs and Slack. Like that's what I told them. Like, it's Google Docs, Slack, and a lot of notifications. Like that's it. So the stuff that I bought, I got to think. Honestly, so I run content marketing and customer marketing now. And the latest thing we bought was Orca. I don't know if you've heard of Orca before. So it's like a customer reference tool. It does some other stuff too. I kind of squint because I'm like learning it because I adopted customer marketing last year. I was voluntold. So I'm like, cool, I'll learn this. And so, that's what we bought. And then we just renewed it. So that's probably the most recent thing. And then Sprout Social if you want to get like more content marketing.
Gotcha. And then when you were voluntold that you were going to own customer marketing, do you remember anything about what that evaluation process looked like?
So I got the team, and then I think like 6 months later, we bought Orca. So that was like the first like purchase. Valuation process was, look, we have like what really exists, and what Chris on my team who runs customer marketing, he's the director. He said there's not a lot of good customer marketing tech out there right now. Which I was not that surprised because the function is still sort of new. Like it's been around, but I think a lot of teams, it's like we have 70 marketers, one customer marketer, or maybe 2 customer marketers, even though your customer base is where a majority of your revenue comes from. So there was this backward thing, and I think it's starting to balance. So all is to say, there wasn't a lot of options. It was like Orca, which was less expensive, smaller team. But he was like, they're willing to like really work with us. And then I honestly don't remember what the other one was. I think it was what was the other? There's another bigger one. It's not.
I'm not at Clari.
No, the customer marketing. The customer marketing.
No, I know.
It's like
Influitive.
No. There was another one. I can't even remember the name.
Detail.
They had just rebranded. That's why I'm like struggling to remember. But anyway, so there was like the bigger one. They have a couple hundred employees. And he's like, but the tech like isn't that good. Maybe it's good. I don't know the name. I don't want to bash it. But he's like, the tech is like meh. And this one, the tech is like better, but it's newer and up and coming. So that was a big part of it. And then budget was obviously a part of it. But the fact that we are going to grow, the company is growing, the tool is evolving, and our function is kind of evolving, all kind of the same pace. It felt like a good fit.
Yeah. I dig that. What is your, it's going to be fun. What is your biggest bone to pick with buying software?
Oh, my biggest bone to pick? Internal or external or both?
Take it wherever you want.
I would say I was in sales. So I'm very upfront with if you win me over on the first call, I will be like, look, I'm a director with budget and some influence here. And if you push me to go get to Julian or to Andy, the CEO, I'm gonna shut down. Like, don't do that. But if there's a fit, I will take you to the promised land because I've sold. Like I know I know the game. And so I really respect when people have good salespersonship. The thing that pissed me off was like, hey, when do we talk to Julian? When do we talk to Julian? Like at the end of every call. And I go, Julian doesn't want to talk to you. Julian wants me to do my job, which is talking to you and figuring this out. So I think that's like, I get it because I've been on those teams, and you have like, the forecast calls were like, we're selling to Devin and Clari, but we're not at power. I think that the like pendulum has shifted a little bit where directors, I think, have more power to at least make the recommendation and the influence and then go get budget. And so I told him, like, I told them, like, I have budget. I'll tell you what it is when we get to that point. So I think it's just kind of like the over pushy salesperson a little bit. But that's like, again, I think that's more of a product of the system that they're in, not like the person.
I would agree with that. So before we start rolling, you mentioned something that you just did recently at Clari with it sounded like some sort of survey or something.
Yeah. We did a buyer's guide buyer survey, for the first time, which was after someone purchases Clari, if they're called a key contact, which is a button I think we push in Salesforce. They get this survey after they buy. And so we just looked at the data literally 2 hours ago for the first time. And there's 41 respondents. And there's a bunch of different questions, but the thing that was really interesting that I was talking to you about was the last question is which one of these, something to the effect of which one of these activities was key to making a purchasing decision. And the first biggest bar was demo, which makes sense. We're in SaaS, and we have a very showable product. Like once you see it, it really clicks. I'm sure most SaaS people say that.
I saw it a while ago, and even before, I think I saw it in like 2019.
Really?
Yeah. And I came back from, I think I was here in Austin at the Forrester B2B Summit. I was like, I know I'm not ready for this yet. My company's not, but this thing is sick. So I'm sure it's changed a lot.
It is cool because it answers a lot of questions people don't know. Like, why is our forecast change $2 million? Like, there's literally like, oh, it's just right here. Like, the answer's here. And so that's cool. But anyway, so the thing was, other than that, so there's a huge bar for demo. And then there's this chunk in the middle, and then there's then the non-answers basically. And the things in the middle were peer review sites, customer stories, references, and referrals, which I think are just another way of saying the same thing. And then it was all the like top of funnel stuff, but otherwise like it's like blog and all the stuff I do with my other part of my team. And so we were just reviewing and talking as a team, and I was like, hold on, can we pause for a second? Like we're basically saying the two things that are helping people decide is the demo and customer marketing. Because that's everything my customer marketer, the two people on my team that do customer marketing do, which is basically social proof. And so we all just kind of talked about that for a second. And then I was like, to me and the PR guy, I'm like, and for everyone else I'm doing marketing, this is awareness stuff. Like that's so important. It's just not the decision. But if you think about like, it's just good validation of the engine. We know we need to do awareness stuff. We know we need to do like decision confidence type marketing. And then obviously we don't really touch too much on the demo. So yeah, man, it was super cool. And I thought of you based on what you guys do.
That's awesome. So along kind of the same topic, when you hear customer evidence, what are the first few things that come to mind?
Well, I smile because when I first got the team, it was customer evidence. We called it customer evidence because I was like, here was the pitch. The voluntold was, so Dev, you're super good at content. And like, customer marketing and customer evidence is content. So like, you good? And I was like, I don't think this is a real question. I think this is rhetorical. But so when I think of customer evidence, I'm thinking of how are we changing the way people think with customer validation. So in other words, there's all the things that we say as a marketing team, all the benefits and all that stuff. To me, customer evidence is like, what are the words in their mouths? How are they describing the problem and the solution? And then how can we broadcast that against or across multiple formats and channels? So, it starts with like the typical case study, which is like the written version. But we also do things like, what is it? Call it 600 words, 1,000 words, whatever. We take the number one sentence. If you had one sentence to pull from that, and we put that on a slide, and then you take the stats, because that's all people really care about, like in the sales function. Take the stat, put the person's face in a quote. So there's 3 things on these slides, and that's what sales loves. They like to send the customer like the full story, but we have 50, 60 slides based on enterprise, based on use case, all this stuff. And that was like where customer evidence started. And then now we're doing like voice of customer videos, like you can do the self-recorded stuff. We're doing a few other things as well, but those are like the main things we're focused on right now. And then of course, peer review sites in a way is customer evidence. It's evidence we have customers and they're happy. But it's a little bit different because it's a different game than like producing content.
I don't know. I go back and forth on reviews and really how important they are whenever I'm evaluating tools. Like, do I look to see if they have reviews? Sure. Do I put a whole lot of weight into them? I don't know.
We're in marketing. We know how the sausage is made a little bit.
That's why.
And so the way I kind of think about it is, because there's you're paying for reviews. Like, let's be honest. And Gartner, you can't pay at all. I don't know if you've done Gartner peer reviews.
We do not, but I know that you. So
you can't do any bribery and any incentivization. They say we incentivize. I'm like, it's a bribe, and that's okay. But you can't do that with Gartner. With G2 is the big one. And so people would be like, well, you're paying for reviews. And I view it as like, no, we're paying people to review, but I'm not controlling what they're saying. They can come blast us for a 1-star, 2-star if they want. Luckily, we don't get those reviews. So I think they're important. The survey showed they're very important. I agree with you that I don't look at it, but I think it's like maybe marketers don't as much.
It's probably that.
And the other thing I think maybe, and this is a bit of a leap, you might want to cut this, is like maybe an age demographic. Because when I look at like analyst reports, like I'm guessing like I'm in my 30s, I think you are too. I don't look
34 a month.
Attaboy, I'm 34 too. I don't look at analyst reports when I'm buying stuff. I look strictly at word of mouth. Like if I need, like when I needed Sprout Social, I went to my network. And I need a social media software. What do y'all got? Sprout Social, call some people. Everyone use Sprout Social. Okay, cool. I'm buying that. Like that's how I picked it basically, more or less. So I think like maybe I don't know. I'm kind of reaching. I don't know if it's an age demographic. I just think there's like certain parts of our customer evidence that speak to different types of buyers, both by demographic and maybe like department.
I buy that. And again, we know how the sausage is made, and I think that's why I'm a little jaded when looking at that. But all right, last question, which I'm really pumped to get your perspective on. How do you build trust in your marketing?
How do you build trust? So it's funny because that's the mission of my team, is to build trust at scale.
That's why I was pumped to ask you this, because it was kind of inspired by that slide. So
how do you build trust at scale is a good question. So the first thing is you have to stop talking about your product first. You have to put, now this sounds cliche, but we'll get to it in a second. You have to put not the buyer first. You need to champion the problem, and then you need to champion the person with the problem, and then you get the opportunity to talk about your product. So that seems simple. It is simple. In this moment, that is simple. It is not simple when you're in a review meeting with your CEO or with your VP of sales or your CRO, and they're like, but we're the best, and we have the best tech and all this stuff. And that's no knock. Every CEO I talk about is obsessed with their product. I get it. It's their baby. But the truth is no one gives a shit about your product. Not yet. And so for me, building trust at scale is focus on the problem, because if you can own the problem, people assume you have the best solution. If you talk about your solution, people assume you're trying to get money out of them. And so if you focus on the problem, and then the next way, if you want to get a little more tactical, and it goes back to voice of the customer, is you need to verbalize the problem with all of the emotions in the same language that your buyers do. And so it's like at Clari, we say run revenue, because when if you hear a CRO on stage, and I remember hearing it for the first time before I even joined Clari, he was like, hey, I'm Devin Reed, I'm the CRO at Cran, and I run revenue. Or I run revenue at Cran. And then you're like, oh, that's interesting. They don't say they own it. They don't say they manage it. I'm sure they do sometimes, but they say run revenue. So when you can find those little sound bites and, customer calls and like social media is a good one too. take that, put that into your copy, into your content, and then people start to identify with your content as like, oh, they're one of us. That's not a marketing guy or gal talking to us. That's someone who understands and lives our life. And then they start to trust you. Then they start to listen. Then they start to subscribe. And then hopefully they like you enough to buy from you.
Yeah, and sign that DocuSign. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Well, this was awesome. Cool, I wish we could go longer, but we got to keep the show going on. But thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
I had a good time.
Yeah.